everyone. Happy Monday. Today we have another interesting episode for you that has to do with AI. I mean, what's not to talk about there? It's constantly evolving. But Tara, this episode, it's going to be like fascinating, but a little bit frightening all at the same time, like AI usually is. But this update could quite literally mean that the world is going to completely change very rapidly and affect all of us. So I just want to start out with the main headline that came out. So on Friday, November 17th, OpenAI's board announced that they were removing Sam Altman from the company, who was the CEO of OpenAI. And OpenAI is like one of the biggest companies. We've talked about it before on this podcast. They have ChatGPT, which I'm sure everyone's heard of by now. But the post said, quote, deliberate review process by the board concluded that he was not consistently candid in his communications with them, hindering its ability to exercise its responsibilities, end quote. So less than 24 hours after the board of OpenAI removes Sam Altman, they start working out a deal to bring him back because hundreds of OpenAI employees threatened to quit and competitors were immediately trying to scoop them up, including Microsoft, which is like their main competitor. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella posted on X that Altman and Greg Brockman, who was a former OpenAI president and board chair, alongside other colleagues, were going to be joining Microsoft to lead a new advanced artificial intelligence research team. So OpenAI realized, like, oh shit, this is not good. And they immediately cut a deal to bring him back. And what happened as soon as he got back? He got rid of all but one board member that voted him out. So everyone was a bit shocked by what unfolded over, like, this was like the course of 2 days. All of this happened and started prompting all sorts of speculation about what happened. Like, why did they all of a sudden want to get rid of him? And like, now he's back. And mainly, like, what did he do? Had he gone too far with AI and just leaving everyone a little bit uneasy? So I found a Telegraph article that was titled, OpenAI board warned Project Q-Star could threaten humanity prior to Sam Altman's sacking. And so this article talked about this secret project at OpenAI that could possibly, it's just speculation, but it could be the reason that the board decided to get rid of him. And this project, known as Q-Star, apparently is a project where it was teaching AI how to solve math problems. Now, when I first read this, I'm like, oh, no big deal. I mean, who cares, But the article went on to say that these AI algorithms have really struggled with math, and they've mainly just used language models. And we've seen how quickly AI has progressed just this past year working with language models. So with the math, even though at this point it can only do simple math, just like the language models, it's expected to learn rapidly. So what does that mean? Well, it means that AGI is here. AGI is artificial general intelligence. And the big fear around that is that they believe with AGI, AI will self-replicate and be able to program themselves. So AGI would mean that AI could understand, learn, and apply its intelligence to solve any problem, just kind of like human beings can. And AGI is something that a lot of people said was decades away until this past year when they started seeing the rapid progress of ChatGPT and then Google Bard. Then people were like, oh, wow, maybe it's much closer. Maybe it's only a few years away. Well, now there's all this talk that maybe it is already here. And that is why they wanted to remove Sam Altman. So, just looking at this logically, I feel like all of these AI companies, they're going to be secretive and they're going to push the boundaries because they all want to be the leader in AI, right? Like, they're focused on their company being the first. The CEOs want to make a name for themselves. So I highly doubt that any of them are being as cautious as they should. And I don't know, like, Tara, an AI that can self-replicate and program itself, that seems to be pretty fucking dangerous, don't you think?
I would say it's more like terrifying because basically what this means is like AI has the potential to not only think like a human, but possibly outthink humans, surpass human intelligence, and end up like solving problems that humans can't solve, which basically means that AI is going to be smarter than humans. And I keep reading things like AGI and ASI, artificial superintelligence, like, oh, this is still the stuff of science fiction. And, you know, like you were saying, people are saying it's years away, but I totally disagree. Like with the insane advances in AI and all this shit that's happening, like I'm really starting to doubt that that's in the future. And it's like we're always joking about, even though it's not really joking anymore. I feel like we're on the brink of living in a sci-fi horror film. And Altman made some comments that I thought were a little bizarre and concerning. I was reading an article in Express Online where last Thursday he reportedly stated, quote, 4 times now in the history of OpenAI, the most recent time was just in the last couple weeks, I've gotten to be in the room when we sort of push the veil of ignorance back and the frontier of discovery forward. And getting to do that is the professional honor of a lifetime, end quote. So again, what exactly was the boundary that he pushed? Like, what are the details of this breakthrough that made him so completely concerning to the board that they made the move to fire him? Because the way this whole thing went down is really fucking weird and concerning to me.
Oh, absolutely. And think about it, like, we're hearing about all of these American companies. We have no idea what they're doing in China, for example. We know they're working on AI and they want to be the leader. We have no idea. So it is like really uneasy not knowing what's going on behind these doors. I found a Reuters article that said, quote, the breakthrough prompted senior staff at OpenAI, the Silicon Valley startup behind ChatGPT, to raise concerns with the board about the risks posed by technology. While OpenAI denies this project as the reason for removing Sam Altman, OpenAI executive Mira Murati acknowledged that Project Q-Star was a thing in an internal memo. So this Q-Star thing is what has everyone a little, not a little, a lot concerned. And this executive had put out a memo about it. So it's not some conspiracy theory. But I want to give some more like context and background just to the topic of AI safety at OpenAI. So Sam Altman is the guy who told the founders of the startup Shipmate that, quote, I prep for survival. And he warned of either a lethal synthetic virus, AI attacking humans, or a nuclear war. So, like, he's very serious about AI being potentially dangerous and is known as a doomsday prepper. And then you have the whole background with Elon Musk, who helped to start OpenAI. He left the company because he was concerned that there was just no safety in place. And when he voiced his concerns, he was called a, quote, speciesist by Google co-founder Larry Page because he was worrying about human consciousness after Page told Elon Musk that he wanted to create a digital god ASAP. So this all came out in an interview that Elon Musk did with Tucker Carlson. And when the co-founder and chief scientist at OpenAI, I know I'm going to butcher this name, Ela Sutskever, announced the removal of Sam Altman, Elon Musk weighed in, saying that Sutskever wouldn't have fired Sam Altman unless it was necessary. He posted, quote, Ela has a good moral compass and does not seek power. Sutskever, who remains at OpenAI, was concerned that Altman hadn't given enough consideration to the dangers posed by OpenAI's work. And this was in a New York Times article. So they all are kind of hinting around that shit's going down and it's not good.
Yeah, I was reading this publication called Who, What, Why. And like two of the staff were discussing this whole situation with like the firing and rehiring of Altman. And excuse me, I don't know what kind of inside information they had, if any, but they were talking about how like one group within the board felt that AI projects were moving too fast and that they needed to slow down because of the dangers to humanity. Whereas like Altman's point of view was more motivated from a profit and competition perspective, where he felt that they weren't moving fast enough and like projects need to be commercialized faster and have the advantage of being the first ones in the driver's seat with AI before China has the ability to control it. And like, again, though, either way, whatever is happening behind the scenes at AI is like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, it's very scary. Well, on November 6th, they announced that you can now create your own GPT. So this is directly from the OpenAI website, and I'm just going to read what's on there. It says, we're rolling out custom versions of ChatGPT that you can create for a specific purpose called GPTs. GPTs are a new way for anyone to create a tailored version of ChatGPT to be more helpful in their daily life at specific tasks at work or at home, and then share that creation with others. For example, GPTs can help you learn the rules to any board game, help teach your kids math, or design stickers. Anyone can easily build their own GPT, no coding required. You can make them for yourself, just for your company's internal use, or for everyone. Creating one is as easy as starting a conversation, giving it instructions and extra knowledge, and picking what it can do, like searching the web, making images, or analyzing data.
Okay, I just have to say, like, this shit is making us lazier, as if we're not already lazy enough with the ease of internet and social media. But you mentioned earlier, like Google Bard. And for people who don't know what that is, it's Google AI's chatbot. And apparently now, instead of like watching videos on YouTube, Google Bard will watch them for you. And then you can just ask specific details. There was an article in T3 and it was talking about how instead of watching a YouTube video on like how to make scrambled eggs and having to like scroll through and find out how many eggs the recipe calls for, you can just ask Google Bard and it will tell you ahead of time. So like, I'm sorry, we're already lazy watching everything on our phones and computers. And like now you can ask AI to do it for you.
Yeah. Well, and I was on of course TikTok the other day, and this woman posted, she's like, is anyone else having a really hard time sitting down and watching just like a Netflix show? Because she's like, I am so used to TikTok that I can't commit to like watching one thing for like 30 minutes. My attention span is gone. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's right. And so many people were commenting the same thing. And I'm like, it's kind of scary how quickly we are adapting to this technology. And my question with this whole create your own GPT is, how quickly will this replace everyone's job? Like, if you could create an HR GPT, a graphic designer GPT, a tech support GPT, and so on, wouldn't every company in the world do this? Because when you think about it, like their biggest expense is their people. And you could just pay for, a GPT once, or maybe not even pay for it, I'm not sure, and have it done like forever. And I mean, think about it. Like, think about how many greedy CEOs there are out there. They're going to use this to their advantage. Like, look at Amazon, who already replaced a ton of warehouse workers with robots. And like, this can all happen very quickly because it's already rolled out. Like, I think it's in the beta version now, or maybe not even, maybe it's moved out to the general public. But this morning, I actually came across an interview from Joe Rogan. This is from October 6th, where he was interviewing Sam Altman. And he specifically asked this question, like, what are we going to do when all of these people lose their jobs? So let's listen to Sam Altman's response.
Back to the initial question. If we do have something that completely eliminates factory workers, completely eliminates truck drivers, delivery drivers, things along those lines, that creates this massive vacuum in our society.
So I think there's things that we're going to do that are good to do, but not sufficient. So I think at some point we will do something like a UBI or some other kind of like very long-term unemployment insurance, something, but we'll have some way of giving people like redistributing money in society as a cushion for people as people figure out the new jobs. But maybe I should touch on that. I'm not a believer at all that there won't be lots of new jobs. I think human creativity, desire for status, wanting different ways to compete, invent new things, feel part of a community, feel valued, that's not going to go anywhere. People have worried about that forever. What happens is we get better tools and we just invent new things and more amazing things to do. And there's a big universe out there. And I think, I mean that like literally, in that there's like space is really big, but also there's just so much stuff we can all do if we do get to this world of abundant intelligence where you can sort of just think of a new idea and it gets created. But again, that doesn't, to the point we started with, that doesn't provide like great solace to people who are losing their jobs today. So saying there's going to be this great indefinite stuff in the future, people are like, what are we doing today? So, you know, I think we will as a society do things like UBI and other ways of redistribution, but I don't think that gets at the core of what people want. I think what people want is like agency, self-determination, the ability to play a role in architecting the future along with the rest of society.
Okay, so basically it sounds like there's no plan in place. Like, you know, he points out that he thinks that there will be, you know, some sort of universal basic income and, you know, they'll just figure out a way to distribute the wealth. Well, I call bullshit. Like, look at COVID, what happened during COVID. They didn't do that. In fact, the biggest shift in wealth in history from the middle class to the wealthy happened during COVID. And I'm sorry, but universal basic income is pretty much a fancy way of saying welfare. And I don't think that that gives people much comfort.
No, and I also find it disturbing that he is being very forthcoming with saying like, well, we'll have to figure it out. But at the same time, he's the guy who is instrumental in creating this technology that's taking people's jobs away, acknowledging that it's taking people's jobs away, acknowledging that people want to feel like they're doing something and part of something, and at the same time saying, I don't have a solution for you. Like that's kind of fucked. I'm sorry, it's fucked. And according to Bill Gates, like AI is going to result in people only having to work 3 days a week in the future because it's going to take care of all the busy work for us. And then just recently, I guess, JP Morgan CPO Jamie Dimon told Bloomberg something very similar, that like the next generation of workers is only going to need to work like 3.5 days a week in the office thanks to AI. And we mentioned this on a past podcast, but when the World Economic Forum published their Future of Jobs Report 2023 back in May, it was predicted that AI is going to create 69 million new jobs, but at the same time eliminate 83 million jobs. So what are we supposed to find comforting about that?
Right. And then are they going to pay people the same for working 3 days instead of 5? Or is that going to be justification to cut everyone's pay?
Right. And it's like, here's something else too, like, we've talked about this before, like with AI, it makes it impossible to tell like what's real and what's not real, right? And going back to this whole thing with what happened to ChatGPT, the two guys that were talking in this article were talking about the dangers of AI. And this is something that I also like wasn't fully thinking about. But one of the guys said, quote, I think the dangers are enormous. One of the things that is happening right now in governments around the world, not just the United States or Israel or Ukraine or Russia or China, but also Argentina, is the question, can democracy work when the communication system is unreliable? And what this rapid development of AI threatens to do is shake up the entire communication system. You can't have democracy if everybody is being fed a different picture of what's going on, and it's impossible to decide what's right or what's wrong. And then he said, by way of analogy, the BBC just did a thing on lab-grown diamonds. So you can manufacture a diamond that's indistinguishable from a real diamond. So now the entire market of diamonds is going through the floor. So these things, these disruptions have a really huge effect on the entire world, end quote. And so the other guy comes back and says, Quote, I think the more provocative story involves inevitability. That is to say, we know behind all this lurks the profit motive, broadly defined. These are people who want either money or fame or some sort of power. Just group that under profit. And here's this new toy, and this new toy is a very powerful toy, and it cannot be stopped. I think that's the interesting thing. You fire Sam, and 12 hours later, he pops up at Microsoft. Everybody goes with them. There's a power here in technology that is almost impossible to keep in the bottle. And like, to me, that's like, that says so much, you know, because it is about power and control.
Mm-hmm. It is. And it's crazy because it's like this new tool, but again, it's available right now. This isn't in the future. It is on their website. There's people in AI testing it out. There's probably just regular people testing it out as well. But basically an entire company could be run by one person that just creates a bunch of GPTs, you know? And in fact, they don't even have to create them because OpenAI is making it shareable where someone can create it and then sell it like on their platform. So again, like a company, instead of dealing with all these issues with human beings, they could just get rid of them, pay for this GPT once, and never have to hire another employee again, you know? And like you can constantly tweak it and prompt it and make it better over time, like we've seen already with ChatGPT. And AI learns and grows at an exponential rate. So like to think that they're not going to take advantage of this is just, I mean, they're obviously going to jump on this. And like I said in the beginning, it's going to completely transform the world and it's going to happen quickly. And I can't believe more people aren't talking about it, which just goes to show how like underprepared we are for this. I think with the economy the way that it is, like if everyone all of a sudden starts getting replaced with AI, imagine like what's going to happen? Like what is going to happen? And, you know, like you could look at it from the positive perspective of like, okay, well, let's say we all use it and create businesses with AI and all that kind of stuff. And that does seem really cool. But again, it's like that whole question of like, how much are we going to become dependent on this? Like, I think within one generation, we'll be completely dependent on it. Just like our generation now, like we're totally dependent on electricity and the internet, and our society can't even like function without it. So again, like we're going to go through this massive shift where the whole world is going to change. And I just don't think that anyone fully understands how quickly or like what this all means. And while it's exciting in some ways, there are so many concerns, and it really doesn't seem like any of the people in charge of these AI systems have a good answer for those concerns. So
Because it's all fun and games until the AI takes over humanity.
yeah, they just want to be the first with the latest, you know, update. And that can get out of hand really quickly. And, you know,
It's either going to be AI nuclear weapons that, you know, control themselves and wipe out humanity, or we're just going to have like humanity so dumbed down from not having to learn how to do anything themselves that it will be like AI controlling humanity.
yeah, we'll be, I could totally see it. Like we'll end up being in like a simulation because
Yeah.
it's comfortable, it's easy. There's no, you don't have to worry about going outside and getting hit by a car. You could just go in this virtual AI world. And I mean, it sounds again, like you said, like science fiction, you know, but it's here. It's already here. It's just a matter of like how quickly is everyone going to adapt to it, and looking at how quickly everyone adapted to ChatGPT and things like TikTok, you know, like I think it's going to happen quickly. So we're going to really have to stay on top of this and see what unfolds because it is wild. So there's a little something interesting to start off your week. I hope everyone's job is safe that is listening out there right now. But we'll be back here on Wednesday with some more updates. Thanks everyone for tuning in.